10-game slate on a Friday night, and man, pitching is just pretty atrocious. But it's going to leave us with a lot of interesting bats. Welcome to FSi DFS. I'm McKinley412. Thank you to all of the subscribers. We have hit our 5,000 subscriber mark, and I still truly don't believe it. If you want more content from us, come join us in our Discord. We offer DFS content in a variety of sports. Just head over to the website, FSiDFS.com. You can see all of the promos and whatnot that we do have out there. We'd love to have you join us in our Discord as we talk about the slates all day. High salary, and this is kind of like the only salary that I'm interested in. You'll notice as we get through it, it's pretty ugly overall. But Kirby up at the top, facing off against Miami. He's going to be my favorite pitcher on the board here. Miami should not scare you one bit at all offensively. It's being played in Miami, just another boost to Kirby and his pitching. And he's the cheapest of all these guys who are priced above $9K. So Kirby, definitely going to be my favorite guy. I think he's probably going to be the chalk pitcher on the board here, just given the matchup, given his talent, low walk rate. He's not super high in terms of strikeout rate by any means, but still, I mean, he's certainly serviceable. He's probably going to be your chalk. After that, I went with Chris Sale. He's got a really, really tough matchup facing off against the Yankees. Yankees, one of the better teams against left-handed pitching in the league. But there's no denying that comparatively to Dylan Cease and Grayson Rodriguez, Chris Sale has been absolutely dominant. Again, the price tag is a little concerning at 10.2K. Any pitcher over 10K facing off against the Yankees in that stadium is concerning. But I think with how many cheap value options we do have in terms of bats, like you have teams like Minnesota and Toronto who are just ridiculously cheap in phenomenal spots. I think that we're going to be able to afford these top-end pitchers and these top-end salary guys. So Chris Sale is going to be the pitcher, and then after him, I'm going to go with Grayson Rodriguez over Dylan Cease. Dylan Cease, honestly, I really don't have too much interest in him. He's more in like the fade, no interest category for me. But I mean, if you are going to be playing numerous lineups, Dylan Cease should still probably be in there just because of the upside that he can bring. But I really don't think that he compares with the three other guys in terms of his floor and the matchup and everything. When you take it all together, I just don't think he matches up with these three guys. So I think there's even a pretty big gap between these top three and then Dylan Cease. Going into the mid-tier, man, this is just a lot of ugly. Eovaldi, he's 4 starts back since his injury. A couple of them looked really good. A couple of them looked really bad. Now he's facing off against Kansas City, who's been overachieving. Not overachieving. Like, they're a solid team. They got solid bats. This is not the Eovaldi that we've seen in years. Last year and years past. He's been struggling. The numbers on the surface kind of show it. The numbers, underlying numbers kind of show it as well. So it is a little concerning. Do I want to pay 8.9K for him? No, not really. I'd much rather just pay 500 more and go get George Kirby, or even 1,000 more and get a guy like Chris Sale or Grayson Rodriguez. So am I going to be looking at this mid-tier much, especially in cash games? No, not really. I really wouldn't even be touching this mid-tier in cash games. But if I had to rank them, I do think that Eovaldi would probably be my favorite guy. Next, I went down to Abbott for Cincinnati. Cincinnati, you can see Abbott some of the stats over here. He actually has the 5th lowest hard hit rate against in the entire league. The issue with him is that he doesn't have too much of a strikeout upside, just a 18.3% strikeout rate. Small ballpark for Abbott. I'm sorry, I just have so many thoughts about this mid-tier that it's just so ugly. But Abbott facing off against Boston. Boston does strike out a lot. You can see it right here. Red Sox highest strikeout rate in the league against left-handed pitching at 28.1%, and they're facing Abbott. So you got a very low strikeout pitcher facing off against the highest strikeout rated team, but it's in a hitter's park. Am I excited about it? No, but can he limit damage? Absolutely. So I guess I would go with Abbott there. Rodon, tough matchup against Atlanta. question mark. Is Atlanta a tough matchup? I feel like they're a tough matchup on paper, certainly, but they've just been so disappointing all season long. And then Rodon, like, the surface numbers look solid. He's got a quality start in 7 of his past 8 pitching performances, but I don't know. I don't trust him. I still don't trust what he has been doing. I'm not too interested in him here on this slate. Again, at his price tag, I just get the 800 more and go up to Kirby, or like go a couple thousand cheaper and go to guys like Knack or Hers or even Rogers, and we'll talk about that when we get there. But yeah, Rodon, not too much interest. Crawford, he's facing off against Abbott. He's facing off against Cincinnati. Cincinnati strikes out an absolute ton. So maybe he gets there. And then Paddock, again, like, this is just another. The upside could be there facing off against Oakland, but he just got absolutely obliterated by Oakland 5 days ago. And, aside from this game against Colorado, he's not doing well at all within the past month. He has not reached 11 DK points in all but one of his starts. So do you want to pay 8.7K for that? No, not really. I feel like Eovaldi, Paddock, Rodon, Crawford, like all of them are priced just way too high, 6, 7, 800, or even up to 1,000 too much. I just don't have a whole lot of interest in this mid tier, and I've already talked too much about it. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Going into the cheap tier, Knack, he's probably going to be the most popular of these cheap guys facing off against the Angels. I do worry a little bit about how far he's going to be going into the game, so just monitor that. After that, I'm going to go with Rogers and Hers. Hers just had that absurd 40 DK performance, 40-point DK performance, so maybe he gets a little bit of ownership love because of that. But at the same time, this is a young pitcher who's going to play in Coors, and that is just tough for anybody, regardless of your strikeout upside. But still, I think he does have strikeout upside, and he's somebody that you should be having in your player pool if you're building 20 plus lineups. And then the other guy who I want to talk about is going to be Rogers. Man, he's just ugh. But at the same time, Seattle strikes out a ton. Seattle, second highest K rate in the entire league, facing off against left-handed pitchers. They get Rogers, but Rogers ew. So maybe Rogers gets there with some strikeout upside, but man, it's scary. One benefit is that they are also playing in Miami, so great pitchers park, maybe a little bit of a boost and bump to Rogers as well. And Rogers and Hers just ridiculously cheap, 5'4" and 5'2", 5'4" and 6'3" for guys who potentially could have strikeout upside. More specifically, Rogers, 5'4" for a guy who could get you 5, 6, I don't want to say 7, 5 to 6 strikeouts for that cheap. Do you want to go with that, or do you want to pay 3,200 more for a guy like Rodon facing against Atlanta? Mid-tier is kind of gross. Pitching is just gross all around. So let's head over towards the bats. Baltimore, they're going to be my favorite stack on the board. They're probably going to be a lot of people's favorite stack on the board. They're facing off against this prospect named Bloss. Don't really know too much about this guy. I read one article. He's never pitched above AA ball. They're just kind of sliding him right on up there. High velocity on this guy and just kind of pounds the strike zone. So, yeah, how deep does he go? I mean, he's fully stretched out. He's been pitching in the minors. But I think that Baltimore should not have too much of an issue getting to him, and they're going to be my favorite stack on the board. Lefties, righties, doesn't matter. They're on the board. After Baltimore, I actually ranked Minnesota. There, you can see down here, I think Baltimore and then Minnesota would be my favorite team on the board. Minnesota is just ridiculously cheap. You got Royce Lewis hitting a home run every single game. It's absurd. He's expensive at 5.8K, but after that, it gets extremely cheap. Make sure you pay attention to Kepler. He is day-to-day. He was pulled out of the game. So if he is missing, it is a little bit of a downgrade just because it would be missing one of those left-handed bats. But Minnesota, they're chock full of lefties. Minnesota is a top 5, top 10 team against right-handed pitching. And just like Oakland just faced off against Paddock, Minnesota just faced off against Estes for Oakland, and they absolutely torched him for a couple of innings before he got pulled after like 2 or 3 innings. So Minnesota, just when you take into account who they're playing and you take into account the salary of them, I'm going to rank them as my second favorite team on the board. Then we're going to go with Cleveland. Cleveland's facing off against Carrasco. And Carrasco has just been absolutely abysmal throughout the course of the season here. Let me pull up their salaries. Sorry, Cleveland not facing off against Carrasco. Cleveland has Carrasco. Cleveland's facing off against Yariel Rodriguez. Rodriguez, if you were paying attention earlier on the season, decent K upside, but Cleveland, they just don't strike out really at all as a team. Steven Kwan, pretty expensive at 5.3K, but the guy's hitting almost 400, and we are at the end of June. It is absolutely bananas what this guy has been able to do. So I really honestly don't mind the price tag at 5.3K. Naylor, Jimenez, like you really can't go wrong. Bo Naylor might be in there as a left-handed bat, super cheap at 3K. But I really do like Cleveland just with how amazing their offense has been recently. But Toronto is definitely also up there in my top 5 plays of the day. Do I like it? No. Toronto, I mean, you've been watching these videos all season long, I feel. You know that Toronto has just burned us time and time again, and it's very frustrating. But you do see that I have them ranked still in my top 5. They're facing off against Carrasco. Carrasco, 5th highest ISO against among qualified pitchers at 213, and that's in the entire league. So he's not been doing very well in that. And then he also is tied for the 5th highest expected WOBA against in the entire league at 356. So Toronto, they are set up to do well and succeed. But are they going to? Who knows? Like, this is hate playing Toronto right now. Just how much they've been disappointing. But Horowitz, a nice lefty there at 3.7K. He's got a nice spot in that lineup. And then guys like Varsho, really essentially the lefties, but again, with Carrasco, doesn't really matter too much. Lefties, righties, jam them in. They're cheap. All of Toronto is cheap. Target Carrasco. San Diego, I feel like that kind of speaks for yourself. I'll just pull them up. I'm curious what their salaries are, actually. Not too bad. Pretty affordable. Tatis, Machado, Cronenworth, Ray. He's right there with Carrasco in terms of like struggling. When you comparatively look at Ray and Carrasco, they are very similar. They're actually tied for the same expected WOBA. When you're looking at like ISO against, hard hit rate, barrel, like all of the numbers, Carrasco and Ray are very similar. So I really do like San Diego and what they're capable of doing. And you can kind of see, I haven't talked too much about Coors Field. It's not that I don't think Coors Field is going to do bad. It's just that they're much more expensive than teams like Minnesota and San Diego and Toronto. I don't know. I just have a bad feeling. And it really is a testament to pitching is awful on this slate, and you can go so many ways in terms of the bats. Is there a massive gap between Coors Field and San Diego and Toronto and Cleveland? No, not really. Jam all these guys in. But Colorado, Washington, just make sure that C.J. Abrams is going to be back. Hopefully he is. He's been out. He was out today, and then he was in the day before that, but out before the day before that, and pay attention to C.J. Abrams. Over into GPP, though, Texas, they're going to be my favorite GPP on the board. Cincinnati's right after them. But I just really like the affordability of Texas and the amount of left-handed bats that they can have in their lineup to go against Singer. Singer's been having a bit of a home run issue here as of late, so Corey Seager is certainly going to be in play. He's kind of been struggling with the bat here as of late. But you know who hasn't been struggling with the bat? Wyatt Langford. This guy has been awesome recently. He was struggling so much early on in the season. He was out for a while with injury. He came back, and now he is just doing fantastic. Thumbs up. Absolutely love it. As he's on my season-long team, and he's extremely affordable at 3.4K. But Texas is just loaded with so many left-handed bats with Lowe, Josh Smith, and Seager that they're certainly going to be able to do some damage. And even Adolis Garcia, a righty on righty, he's still only 4K. Like, that is just too cheap for a guy with this amount of talent. So I'm going to go with Texas. It's kind of like my under-the-radar kind of call of the day. Cincinnati and Milwaukee ranked behind them. So hopefully this was able to guide you in the right direction. Again, pitching is just atrocious. I'm going to be sticking towards the high salary. If I'm going into the cheap salary, it is with close your eyes, click it. Knack, I would trust a little bit more in cash, but Rogers and Hers, much more GPP calls, just really praying that they can get you some strikeout upside and pay off their salary. Because like at their salaries, if they can get you 12 to 15 DK points, awesome. Not going to burn you at all. But I really don't think that salary is going to be too much of an issue that you even really need to go out down here, because the top stacks, in my opinion, are cheap. So thanks for watching. As always, good luck in your contest, and we will see you in the next one.